can talk about the bylaw concerning the fees, this draft that Jen did,
Okay.
but none of the other bylaws, because it wasn't posted that way. Okay, we are here tonight to discuss the fees that we're going to place into the rules and regulations. And Bob spotted the fact that we need to change the bylaw to go with the uses of these fees. It was very restrictive the way it was in the bylaw. So Jen Hager worked with me and did a draft, which we have here too. So I guess the first thing to do is to look at the fees. We had discussed when Andy and Bob weren't here, the fact that I thought the single-family dwelling fee of $100 was a little steep, so we had talked about $50 for that, and then Mike came up with the idea of having 50 on the multi-dwelling families, multi-family dwellings, 50 for the first one and 25 for each after that. So we discussed that and didn't want to vote on anything. And we're not going to vote tonight either. We're just going to discuss it, and then we will vote at a regular meeting. The only thing that we need to vote on tonight is to continue it, to continue this discussion to the next meeting so we can vote on it. Anyone have any other comments on this? This was the Grafton one, and Bob and I both liked the way this was set up and thought it was pretty easy to read and so forth. I have a couple of more things on here, but if anyone else has any comments.
I think personally that this should be a part of a bylaw review as well. I think I know that it was worded differently in the advertisement, that's why we can't talk about any bylaw changes at this one.
We can talk about the bylaw.
Just pertaining to the fees, but
Just
not the
pertain-
bylaw itself.
No. Yes, well, that is part of the bylaw. This is part of the bylaw. It's the bylaw,
I understand that,
section.
but there's sections of the bylaw that I think should be changed.
yes, but we'll have to do that at a different meeting.
Right, that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, we will have to do that at a different meeting. Okay, on here, when it came to the amended order on miscellaneous down here at the bottom on B, I think that there should be a qualifier that when it's not amended, excuse me, the extension. When it comes to the extensions, then it should be as of the current bylaw and not a previous one.
I would agree.
That's not a fee, so you can't really put it on this as part of the fee schedule.
Well, yeah, we can charge a fee for extending the bylaw, and most towns do.
No,
I'm not expending the bylaw, extending the order of conditions.
I know, but is that applicable to be placed in a fee schedule, or is that something that should be placed in the bylaw?
In the fee schedule, because it's a fee. That's what we're looking at here. Request for extension of order of conditions. Oh, you're talking about not the fee, but that it should be under the,
Well, the language that you want to change, I'm wondering if it's applicable to be put in here as part of the definition for a fee, or whether it should be put someplace else. That's all, or is an asterisk at the bottom of it.
I would think an asterisk at the bottom, but that's something we gotta investigate.
That's the question I was asking.
Okay, I had sent Jen an email about that today, and I didn't get a response. I don't know if she was out and about today or not, but
Now,
anyway.
when you say the amended order of conditions, or request for extension of order of conditions, which would be based on the current rules and regulations, or based on what?
When they have to file for an extension a month before it expires.
Yep.
And so that requires some paperwork and so forth, and it needs to be registered at the Registry of Deeds also.
Yep, okay.
And so that, we've gotten in trouble with, in the past, with not having it be with the current bylaw, so that's why.
But I'm just saying, well, what does that entail? Does it entail just referencing the current bylaw, or does it entail drafting a new order of conditions?
No, it doesn't, it wouldn't be a new order of conditions. If you think it needs to be a whole new order of
I don't know,
conditions.
I'm asking the question. I mean, you're the one that thought that, is considering this, I haven't given it any
Well-
thought, so I gotta ask these questions to help me make a determination, and I assume you thought it through, that's all.
Otherwise, you'd deny it and make them file all over again.
But, are we trying to just to the current bylaws, or are we trying to update the order of conditions to reflect what we're doing now versus what was done later?
Well, I was gonna ask Jen if that could be done. Now, Wanda said that, she said that's what they do in the planning board, that they have them do the current bylaw. So I was gonna ask her about it, but I didn't get to see her today, so,
I have something to add.
yeah.
So if somebody was like 99% completed with their project and they time elapsed and they had to completely refile and they had to file under the new bylaws, we could cause a huge hardship on somebody that was
Right.
99% completed. I think that if it expired and it wasn't a started project, meaning they hadn't started on it, and we wanted to make them adhere to the, because that's probably what happens more than not, is they come, they file, it gets approved, and they don't start the project for whatever reasons. But if somebody was substantially completed and they ran out of time and needed to extend their order of conditions, and we were facing them with all new challenges and all new, I just think we should think about it.
Well,
As far as a fee, it gets complicated now, so there could be two types of extensions that they would ask for. One where they hadn't started the project at all, where I don't think it would be unreasonable to ask them to file under the new bylaws. That would be fair to me, but I wouldn't think it would be fair if somebody was substantially started or near completion, just, what is it, 3 years, 4 years, 4 years?
It's 3 years. We've got one coming up that they started 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Well, every
The old
Condition is
bylaw is
different.
just so confusing that no one understands it.
right, but if they
So
have an approved plan, that's what they were supposed to
Right.
They
do.
have to go off the approved plan that was approved. But I would agree, probably, if something's not, you got a 2-acre house lot out there, and nothing's been started,
Oh, you just brought up a good point. So the newer bylaw, if they had to conform to that, it would be less restrictive, is what you're thinking?
I feel so. I don't think anyone understands the original bylaw.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. I just think we should be careful about mandating that if somebody's extension runs out, that they gotta file under a new regulation.
If somebody's
On the
extension,
planning board, I would understand where if your approval ran out, because they're more land than what, so if your approval ran out, meaning what, you didn't go record it after you had your land?
if your
I mean,
extension runs out, you have to file a new.
Agreed, and I agree there should be a fee, but that would be, so if somebody just needed an extension on the existing project, no change of paperwork, but there's some, on our end, that would to me be one fee. Say someone had an extension run out, looked to renew it, we're asking them to file, wouldn't we just deny it and make them file? And then that would force the new rules so that it wasn't a regulation that we
used
couldn't.
to always just, well, I shouldn't say always.
You know what
but
I'm
a
saying?
few
So
that
somebody comes in
nothing's-
front of the board, they have an approved project that expired, they hadn't started the project.
They have to file
Instead
all
of,
over again.
instead of allowing them to do an extension, we would just not grant them an extension and ask them to file under the current bylaw, so I
And
think.
that
it-
would be a bylaw change, and that's why I don't.
No, why
No,
would,
it's
no,
not a
no,
bylaw
that
change.
wouldn't be a bylaw change, that's what I'm saying.
Be the current.
We wouldn't be changing anything, the only thing we have to discuss, and the only reason I'm bringing it up, because now it could be more work one way or another. Or I guess it wouldn't be, no, that would give clarification, sorry.
That's
So
the law,
If we stick to what
actually.
we've been doing, then this fee works just perfectly. And we would never put that language, don't do a bylaw change to add that. We would just leave it the way it is, approve this $50 fee, and if somebody comes in front of the board, they haven't started the project, I guess it would be up to each of us what we would decide. We could vote whether we don't allow them to extend it under their current approved, or we say, it's in your best interest, why don't you file under the new bylaw? You're pretty much starting all over again either way if it's expired, because we have to review the whole thing.
But if it hasn't expired and it's somebody's, like you said, 99% done, and they need to extend it for just a little while, that's why I was gonna put that qualifier on there, if we can, that it would be under the new bylaw. So because if it does expire, then they have to start all over again.
Oh, yeah, you're right. If we, so if we don't renew it and it expires, then they're starting
Then they have to file all over again.
phase one again, which is a huge deal, hardship, money, everything else.
Right.
That's, I wanted to think it out before we just quickly say, add more bylaws, add more
Well, it's
ways.
not a bylaw.
Well,
It
agreed.
would be in rules and
We
regulations.
just started talking about if we went down the road,
I
put
think-
clarification
And
to
I
it,
don't
the
even know if
clarification
we can
comes
say
from
this.
the
I think there's
bylaw.
a misunderstanding out there with the public that the current bylaw, 2015, I believe it is stricter and harder than the bylaw prior. And I disagree. I think the 2015 is easier to understand and is less strict. So I think personally, and I don't know if we can say this, but extending them under the current bylaw would be actually easier and better for a client or someone in the town than the old bylaw.
Anyway, that's was my thought, so, we're not gonna vote on this tonight, but you can take a look at it, but,
Isn't this primarily in relation to the consultant's fees? Isn't that where we got burned at one time?
I'm not thinking of that, no.
You know, but that did happen where we extended someone under the old bylaw and found.
Old bylaw.
Yes, it was very,
2 or 3 generations old.
and, well, I'm thinking of one in particular. I don't know how old the bylaw was, but it was not the 15 bylaw. We extended it, and then a lot of work had been done. And then they brought something in front of us that said they were capped at a certain amount of money, and we, meaning we, the town of Sutton, had to refund them
The
all
consultant,
money, substantial money.
the consultant himself refunded the money. The town of Sutton never came forward to pay the bill.
Yeah, you're correct. I stand correct. You were right. Yes. So the consultant on his own sent
2,000 or over 2,000.
yeah over a couple $1,000s back of his own money after work had been done. To the point now that that one is still open. That if he goes out there now, it's being done for the donut. So in a case like that, had we known that, I would have not renewed it. I would have said new bylaw.
But the question is, can you condition or recondition an extension?
Well, that's what we gotta find out. I don't know that either, but that's why I was trying to get a hold of Jen today. But,
Well, I don't know if she would know. Brandon would probably be the one to answer that question, whether you could recondition it. Because Jen is certainly not a,
well, she said that's what they do in planning board,
I
but,
understand, but planning board and conservation are 2 different animals,
Right.
or there can only be one board.
okay, that was my thought, so we can maybe do some investigation to see if we can qualify that or not.
Or whether or not we can recondition an extension or add a condition onto an extension anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This part at the end, about the activity and things at the end, we decided we didn't know what it meant and we were gonna cross that off anyway. But, we had discussed about this thing at the end where it says all filing fees submitted after the commencement of work will be doubled, and that's in the things that I had sent you last spring, all the towns have that, and we had that previously in ours.
Can we put that at our discretion?
It
We-
could act on that.
We could, but,
I guess what this
Well-
is saying is if rivers are pretty blatant,
Well,
not
I
hard to
think- I
miss,
think we're
everybody
crossing
knows
off.
too, I don't think,
I think we're crossing off. I think what we're
That-
talking about here is the
The top
fees,
line of the note.
fees filing submitted after
We're not-
commencement work will be doubled, and that's a penalty.
yeah,
If somebody starts the work and doesn't file appropriately, then this is just a
Right.
penalty, and I
Right.
don't really see a problem with that.
no. But this part at the end, we didn't
Don't
know.
understand, so that.
but the
Yeah.
riverfront area and
Yeah.
any other resource area buffer zones add 50% to
Too
the total
confusing.
fee, multiply the fee by 1.5. So we're just gonna,
All right, let's back up for a second if we can.
Okay,
Okay, notice of intent for a house, okay?
mhm,
they would be paying the $50 for the single-family dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
They would be paying potentially the $50 for the single-family resident driveway. They would be paying the $50, I think it's $50 septic system. Is that correct? As well?
Only in the driveway, only if it's in the buffer zone.
Well, assuming that, I mean, that they wouldn't be coming to us unless a good portion of the job was in the buffer zone. And if it's a driveway, is that 5 feet, 50 feet, or 1 inch? Is it, you're all in or all out? I don't know. Just posing the question in case somebody else poses it. Are we all in or all out in the buffer zone?
You want to qualify that?
I'm asking whether or not it needs qualifying. I'm just raising the question, what's our response if somebody asks you, well, hey, there's only 3 feet in the buffer zone, the rest of it's all out of the buffer zone. You still want me to pay $50?
I think because it would fall in our jurisdiction, you'd have to, if there's an inch in, it's gotta be part of it.
Something or nothing, right?
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you. I just
right,
thought
to
it was a
clarify.
question that needed to be asked, so we had an opinion. But all these fees would apply, correct?
That's the way they do it in Grafton,
And
yeah.
then we would also potentially be looking at any other residential activities not found above as a possible additional cost. And
Well, with,
if they want a shed or a pool, is that part of the original house dwelling, or is the shed and pool, because it's not connected to the house, I mean, a deck and garage could be, but are they considered covered under the single-family dwelling, or are they standalone also? I mean, we gotta have the answers to these, because the first guy that comes in here and says, well, you know, what do I owe you for money? You better figure it out.
well, a pool and so forth, that's usually under an RDA, not a notice of intent.
Well, I'm reading this, and this is notice of intent.
Yeah.
And a pool can be under a notice of intent or an RDA, does not.
A new construction, somebody could file for a house and a pool and a deck and a shed all at the
All in
same
one.
time.
Exactly.
And I don't think you'd have to charge them individually.
Yeah, do you have to do 50 and 50 and 50,
I don't know, I'm
right?
asking the
Right,
question.
right.
I mean, driveway, the house, if you're filing for a house, it's gotta have a driveway too, so does the driveway not fall into that? And it's only if somebody built a new driveway after they got a
Right.
house, well, how did they be getting a house to begin
So
with?
maybe those should be separated,
In addition, after the fact, in addition to?
I don't know, just,
non-attached addition, or,
or do you say
Word it
that
differently.
those are the fees, that if you got a, you know, just a standalone house with a garage built into it, it's $50. If
Well, we
you
don't-
got a garage outside of it, you know, standalone garage separate, it's whatever the fee is here, and if you wanna put a shed in and a pool at the same time, it's all those fees.
Well, if you don't want $50, we can change that.
I'm bringing
See,
up a
I'm-
discussion only
Yeah.
Well,
because I anticipate somebody coming in and saying, okay, how much do I owe? And I think it should be consistent, and I think we should know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what these fees are if we're gonna post them, or when to apply them and when not to apply.
I agree
Good
with
idea.
Bob's point. If someone's coming in to do a house with a garage, separate garage and a pool all at once, I think one fee. I don't think you have to nickel and dime them. But if they come in 5 years from now to put an in-ground pool in, I don't have a problem with
right.
whatever the pool fee is. And the other comment I wanted to make, I think,
So, just to stay with that, I mean, if, you know, we gotta all agree on it or whatever, so do we, if that's the way we go with it, do we change the wording in this to reflect that?
yeah, I think you'd have to, so it's
Okay,
clear.
Just as long as,
So what do you suggest?
Simple as, would you do an asterisk and just make a note that if you apply for a single-family dwelling, no other fees apply? And you have an asterisk.
Asterisk?
Yeah, near next to the items that we wouldn't, you know, the common drive or the septic and the, you know, if there was asterisks next to it with just a little note that said, that would give clarity to
Someone's
it.
building a
Definitely
house.
somebody could ask those questions, or we could start with the wrong intent. This is a really good point.
The other one
Yeah,
I
it is.
No,
want
it
to
is.
comment on is the oil hazardous waste cleanup project. And I don't want to open a can of worms here, but if someone's coming up to us, into us voluntarily to clean up oil or gas or what have you, should we charge them for that? To me, that's one of the biggest things you want to clean up out of a wetland or a wetland area. Do you charge them for that?
You're bringing up a good point that asks me to ask a different question. Is there more work to some of these tasks than others that the fee shouldn't just be the same? So I guess the question is if somebody comes in to file, is it more work that we need to charge more money?
Wait a second, let's back up for a second. These fees that we're charging here are not necessarily relative to any work. This is how we're collecting additional money to support something we haven't decided what we're supporting, but this is over and above all the other fees to create a bank account that the money can be put into this bank account, and this bank account's supposed to grow, and we, I think, I'm not sure who's got control over that bank account.
We do.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but I'm not sure who's got the control over that. Who signs off on every penny that comes out of that? In other words, when they, town manager comes up and says, well, I think you ought to pay this out of that account, can we say no? Because it's our money?
Yes.
I haven't seen it happen yet, and you ain't got control, you ain't got signing rights for that money. So they're gonna take the money out of whatever they want, whenever they want, so.
Wanda submits the bills and Tim pays them, but,
This goes deeper.
So Bob's bringing up a whole bunch, because I'm newer to the board, and I don't, so now,
This money is just to go into the kitty.
I didn't understand.
And we've got a
Maybe we're
kitty
not
that's got
starting
how
at the
much money in
beginning,
it
we're
now?
starting at the end.
this is a whole
How
separate,
much money's that kitty got that we don't know what the kitty's for? Is it 700 or 7,000 or?
I don't know what the current one is.
64,000, isn't it?
No.
No,
No,
that's
no.
the,
trust account? Is that
no,
what you're
that's the
talking
consultant's account.
about? No, there's another one, there's that trust
Well, there's
account.
another trust account, and that's what I was trying to get out of Joyce, as to how much money was in that.
Right, it's like 60.
The trust account that we didn't know we had, that we discovered,
That we don't even know if it's a trust.
that, well, Tim Harrison, when I asked him, said he didn't think it was a trust, it was a trust in name only. It really should be labeled fund, and that's something we gotta look at later. But that has $86,000 in it.
86, apologize.
And
I didn't know how much it was, I
no,
forgot how much it
that
was.
hasn't been active for over 30 years. And that can be used only for land stuff.
Well, we don't, why do
That's
you
good,
say
but
that?
Bob's asking who can sign off on it, who,
That is totally under our control.
We didn't even know we had it, Boots.
It's not-
We
our
didn't
by-
know we
it's
had
not in
it,
our
but
bylaw,
it's totally under our control.
not in our bylaw.
What do you mean, not in our bylaw? That's a state law.
I understand it's a state law, but our bylaw doesn't specify that that account could be used for land purchases or legal fees.
That's what the state law says.
That's why I think we
Well-
need more of a bylaw meeting than a bylaw fee meeting.
Well, the real question, I think, there is how many fees are you allowed to
There is,
ask for under the state rules?
okay, there's the consultant fee, that's
Yep.
totally separate.
Yep.
And that one gets refunded to people after they've filed their certificate of compliance and been granted their certificate of compliance, they get
Whatever's left.
any leftover go back,
Well,
so.
it's with interest too, correct?
It's supposed to be, but Tim Harrison told me it would be impossible to figure that
I
out.
just have a question before we go too much further. So in our current bylaw, section 12-6 fees, is this part of what we can discuss tonight?
This,
Because I'm
yes,
gonna
the
agree with
draft,
Andrew
the
that
draft,
if we can't discuss this, how do we have a fee if I can't understand all the fees?
We
That's-
can-
Just asking,
this draft that Jen did,
yeah.
that's what we can discuss tonight in that section of the bylaw.
So is this in
So-
it, section 12-6 fees?
Yes, right
Okay.
here.
Okay,
Did you read these?
well, no, I haven't had, we didn't get that,
Yeah, I
Right.
emailed them to you.
when?
I emailed this morning
Right,
and
so I worked until I got
Yeah.
here.
anyway.
I have the bylaws.
So here's the draft. This is what Jen and I have been working on, and so here is the consultant fee, that is what
So
we
this
just talked
section
about to get
12-6
things done.
is it different than this one? So are we looking
Yes.
to change
This is the
section
draft.
12-6 fees?
This is the draft that Jen
So
and I
in
have been
addition to
working
this
on.
sheet, we're gonna also make changes to this? Just
No.
to see this, I don't understand, that's all.
All right,
So-
these are the fees for the rules and regulations that we were discussing. Okay, this draft in the bylaw allows us to do this and explains the different fees.
I guess, back to, I'm pointing a little bit in a way. My question, I guess, was that, for lack of a better term, the trustee account, what account does that fall under? Does that fall under?
That is
the-
its own separate account.
So we as a town and as a commissioning can have more than the 3 accounts that have been outlined in the,
There are actually 4.
Yeah, but this is 3.
This municipal bylaw thing.
It's not our bylaw.
Right,
It
so
is.
what's this
It is.
trustee
It was
account?
in our bylaw.
When?
that's what I'm trying to
The
get.
No,
previous
I-
bylaw, because we
I understand.
collected.
That was the
Like, I'm
previous
so
bylaw, it's not
confused,
this
so I-
bylaw.
And thank you,
This
because
is
the whole
it.
point of
This
this is
is
to be
what
able
we're-
to
It was
understand
in the
it.
previous bylaw. The fees were in the previous bylaw. So in 2015, we had language in there to direct it to the rules and regulations. We never put these fees in the rules and regulations.
No, we're not talking about that.
Yes, we are.
Bob is asking specifically about that one account.
There are 3 different sections. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, there's the stuff that comes from the state and this municipal wetland bylaw fee at the bottom here. If you read this proposed bylaw, it explains them all.
Yeah, but I
And
agree, Joyce,
gives
there's 3 fees. And
Actually, 4.
Well, that's where you lost me.
Not
I don't know
account.
I don't know what the 4th fee is that's allowed under the MCAA, WA,
it's not-
XYZ.
Okay, let me see if I can explain this. The consultant, we can forget about the consultant fee because we all understand that, I hope, that that's Brandon that gets refunded. The
Well,
the
So if we're gonna baby
conservation
step-
fund, the
so I don't
conservation
understand
fund,
already. You lost me. So you say a consultant fee, so is that in section 12.6 on the fees in our bylaw?
Yeah.
So if I want, so I don't assume it, and I don't think it was a Brandon fee, I think it's a bylaw fee, so I personally,
see where it says MGL? That's Massachusetts general law. The consultant fee,
Yeah, right
this is
here.
under Massachusetts general law. Every non-exempt applicant shall pay a consultant fee calculated in accordance with the consultant fee schedule and the Conservation Commission regulations. All fees shall be held in the consultant fees revolving account. Any unused portions of collected fees shall be returned to the applicant following issuance of a final order of compliance. The reason there's so much money in that account is because people have not been filing for their certificate of compliance and getting their refund. This fee shall be used solely to pay for the commission's wetland scientist consultant to review applications, including conducting site visits, and to report these findings and commissions back to the commission in writing or an open meeting. Okay, that's Brandon.
All right, now,
so where is that? So where is the fee schedule?
That's what we voted on to change, when we
No, I know,
voted
so,
before.
but where is it in, like, so, where is it? Where did that get implemented into, that became the law? I remember voting on it, but I was very new then. It was the first night, I think.
No, it wasn't.
Second, whatever it was.
But anyway.
So where is that fee now, and where does that implement? Like, so somebody that files, where is
It's
it?
on the website.
So it's not a bylaw? It's just,
It's in the,
how does that?
it's a regulation.
Yeah,
It's
So under
in
the
the
state
regulations.
guidelines, we're allowed to do that, and then
Yes.
we have that.
so
that's
that,
part of the application.
Right, but that's part of what it costs to file, and it covers
Right.
costs that could be in my head that I would need to understand before I agree on additional fees, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
I don't understand so Bob brought up a good point. There's all different avenues that we're taking money. I don't understand those, so you do, you've been doing this a long time.
I've been working on
It's
this
prob-
for a year, and I'm about at my wit's end, to tell you the
Sorry,
truth.
Joyce, before you go to what's end, I'd like to have a little discussion, if I could, with the way this is written, okay?
The draft?
No, the one item that you just read, I thought we're going through one thing at a time. Didn't you just read that for discussion and comment? Or
That's what I was getting at,
can
and
we,
you go
can you reread that for discussion and comment?
We were not here to discuss that tonight, because that's a done deal.
And that's the problem.
Wait a second. yes, it's a done deal. The fee schedule's a done deal. The thing that I would like to add to this, or at least point out, is that we're supposed to be charging interest on this and paying it back interest, just for whatever that's what the state requires. And whether or not we acknowledge that in this, because it doesn't say anything about interest.
It doesn't have to, it's in the general law.
Okay. The other thing that I think we need language in here, that it infers at least, and we need language in here, in the event that the project encounters more problems than was originally anticipated. Everybody anticipates a nice, smooth project, it turns out to be a piece of shit. And your consultant is out there every other day trying to work through this. He runs out of money in a matter of weeks. It doesn't say here any place that additional fees can be charged in the event they be deemed necessary by the Conservation Commission. I think that language should be in there someplace, just for clarity's sake, so that somebody doesn't throw it in your face and say, hey, look, here's what it says in your bylaws, and one-time fee application instead of as needed.
Okay, you want to write something up and we can see if we can add that?
Well, I just basically said it. I mean,
All right.
additional
Additional,
fees, if required, or as deemed necessary, will be charged.
Can I ask a question? Since that's Mass General Law, does it state it under Mass General Law, that additional fees, or no? Okay.
no, it doesn't, it just says that
It allows you to charge the fees, is basically.
Brandon does a proposal.
Yep.
And then if people accept that proposal, the money is collected when they file their application, and it goes into the account. And I believe he has done that in the past when they've run out of money, then they need additional
Under
money.
the old bylaws, Mark Briggs' time in particular, I mean, that was a big discussion every time an applicant came in and that the period ran longer than he had anticipated. Mark would ask Wanda, do we have enough money in the account? And she'd say no, and he would say, well, before we go any further, make sure you turn a check in for X number of dollars.
That's a lot, please.
And, it's just, this language, as I read it here, it's new language. It would lead me, if I was an outsider, to say that it doesn't allow for increasing fees. You've got one shot at the fees.
Okay. All right, we'll see about putting something in there about additional fees, if everyone,
Can we discuss that tonight, or do we have to make a
No,
motion
no,
on
we
it
can-
next week?
I'll go back to Jen and see if we'll add something in there, and then we can discuss it next week.
I would believe Jen will be a big help, because on road bonds and lots of things that go through planning board, they're faced with money running out. I'm sure she'll be familiar with it. It is a good point.
All right, so the consultant fees are one thing. The fund that we didn't know about is called the Conservation Fund in the Mass General Law. And that can be used for certain things, which we had talked about before, like if you can use them to document.
This is the filing fee that you're referring to?
No,
The trust account.
No, this
The
was the
trust
account,
account.
Bob, that you were
This
asking
is the
about.
trust
that had-
account.
Yeah, that had 86,000.
the trust account you can use to administer any of the lands that we have, or do surveys, or things like that. So you can do trails, you can,
Is that-
conservation restrictions, like the conservation restriction I donated on Uncle Wally's land.
Yeah, is that listed here as a separate fee? How does that?
There is no separate fee.
How does that regenerate itself?
It hasn't regenerated itself for years. The town used to put money into it, and people can make
So-
donations for tax deductible donations.
That $86,000,
Yep.
$86,000, that's donated money that people donate out of the goodness of their heart? Is that what it is?
I don't know where it came from, but the town was putting $500 a year into it. And the way Tim explained it to me, he didn't even know, what it was. I asked him, after you and I met that day, if we had a conservation fund. And he said no. And then he came back to me a few minutes later and he says, wait a minute, there is a conservation trust. And he went in the safe and looked and pulled out some records, and it was set up back in the 1980s. And the town was putting, some years, I guess they put $1,000 into it, some years they put $500 into it. And it has been an inactive account for 30 years, he said. So it's just accumulated interest.
Does that fund have to be incorporated someplace in the town charter?
I don't believe so. I believe it was probably set up then. That this is something else we have to investigate to see about that. I went to try to find, what's his name, Perry, that was the treasurer before. But I haven't gotten a hold of him yet to see how he set it up.
I think it's germane to our discussion to find out, what that money can be used for,
Well, I know.
how it can be spent.
You want to see that? It's right here in the master, I have the
I'm talking,
thing here.
I'm talking about the specific money, the $86,000.
Yes, right here. Purpose and advantages of a conservation fund. Conservation fund is a dedicated account established by a municipality to ensure that the Conservation Commission will have cash that can be spent for any purpose stated in the Conservation Commission Act without further authorization. Purposes for which a conservation fund may be used include many common activities and a host of other expenses that are much more rare and practically never within a commission's annual budget. Maintenance and improvement of commission-managed land, monitoring of conservation restrictions, preparing open space plans and maps, initiating and maintaining a GIS, vernal pool certification, recording of votes on land transfers, the purchase of land, expenses directly related to such purposes, surveying, title searches, legal expenses of deed preparation, and title passing.
Okay, but that's what this
That's-
trust that everybody doesn't know about, that's
That's-
the
that's-
language that allows,
If we,
that
that's
could
what
be-
that fund is,
and that can be spent
and that's totally under our control,
as
We
Mike,
vote on
as
it.
Mike sees fit.
as any of us, vote to see fit, yes.
So is this account you can utilize up at Waters Farm for repairs, and isn't that under our jurisdiction?
No, it wouldn't be
I'm just
repairs on
curious.
buildings or anything like
Well,
that,
it
no.
said things that we deemed, is this an account that you could rejuvenate and use it as a fundraiser head start for?
It can,
Uh,
we
I would
just,
be interested to see how that was filled back in 1985. If there was an appropriation from the town
there was,
tax
According to Tim.
money, $1,000 a year or something.
yeah,
If we're gonna use it, then we'd have to set something up in the town charter to fuel it.
$1,000 a year, and it was started in the 80s and ended in the 80s. Someone
well,
could say,
he told me 500, this is something that we need to look at at another
we need some more
time.
research, because it's
We-
a nice thing
We
that
do
you
need some more
found.
research, yes. So, yeah, now, the conservation restriction I gave on Uncle Wally's, it's getting to be 10 years. I would like personally, this is one of the reasons I'm on this board, is so that I could have some control over that, because I made the Conservation Commission the holder of that. So, plus, I'm a Waters descendant, that's another reason I'm here, because Waters Farm. But I would like pictures taken and check on that to make sure that they're abiding by the regulations that we set up when we donated the conservation restriction. I think it should be checked every 10 years, so we can maybe use that money to look at things like that.
Now, what are the one that you signed there 2 weeks ago? Conservation restriction.
The one
Area
for,
circle.
yes,
Now, is that got the same restrictions that Wally's had, or are they different?
you can, if you're doing a conservation restriction, you can put whatever restrictions on it that you want. So I don't know what it is.
Restrictions being the owner of the land, who's donating the land to the conservation, or the town, or who they donating the land to? conservation purposes, but they're withholding, they can withhold the rights to the land
You-
and everything else?
In a conservation restriction, you still own the land, but you donate the development rights or whatever rights you want. You can qualify it any way you want. So what the qualifications were on that one, I really don't know, because we didn't really see the whole thing, what the qualifications were.
But that was, was that something that we would look at in the future to see whether or not we agree with the conditions, whether or not the conditions are something that is worth our involvement in?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not 100% sure how all that stuff works, and I mean, we were just bringing it up, so I didn't know. I mean, this is one, this is for the maintenance of, one of the purposes would be the maintenance of,
Okay,
I don't
now,
know what the maintenance would be.
so those are those two accounts. Now, under the Wetlands Protection Act, money goes to the state, and $25 of that goes to the town.
Correct.
And,
How much was it? So you,
well, you can look it up online.
or is it all different,
Yeah,
Well,
depending on
so,
whether it's a
no,
single family
no,
or a?
yeah, they
No, a
have,
notice of intent or a,
well, you must pay them in your business, you know.
I don't do that part of my business.
You don't do
That's
that
what I'm
part?
saying, I don't
Yeah,
understand
it's-
any of the fees, believe it or not.
Well, if you, well, let's see, I don't know if I've got that information here, but anyway. The Wetlands Protection Account, well, it's his part here, that Jen put here, and she referenced the general laws and so forth. Every non-exempt applicant should pay the filing fee prescribed by law in the manner prescribed by 310 CMR 10.03. So those are on the website, they're in the state law. So those are on the website right now, on the Sutton website. So that's the only fees that people have been paying. And the town gets $25 of that.
So the town of Sutton gets $25 only.
There's $25 that goes into the general fund.
So the rest goes to the state.
And then there's, yeah, the rest goes to the state. So
So now,
they realized that the municipal, that the towns were not, it was costing them money to administer the Wetlands Protection Act through the Conservation Commission. So they passed in 1966 the Municipal Wetland Bylaw Fee Home Rule Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's not jump over too quickly, if we can.
Mm-hmm,
The Wetland Protection Act.
yep,
And according to this, is expenses may be paid from these funds to restrict expenses related to directly administration and enforcement of the Wetland Protection Act. So that the town's portion of these fees
mm-hmm,
are supposed to be going towards enforcing the Wetland Protection Act
mm-hmm.
and may include, but shall not be limited to, administration costs and staff salaries attributed to the WPA, activities, hiring consultants to verify delineation of wetlands, which I don't think should be in there.
I agree.
Review applications, which I don't think should be in there. And conditions, decisions, creating information brochures, material about the WPA, training directly related to administering and enforcing the WPA, computers and office equipment used for administrating and enforcing WPA.
That came right out of the state law.
I'm just saying that we got a little
It's redundant.
redundant there where we're paying for the consultant's fees in two different places or through two different sources.
It could be different types of consultants. Could be consultants for,
Verified delineation of wetlands, which is what we do with the NRED.
consultant fees.
where the consultant fees, right.
Right, what we do with the first one, with the cities, that covers all those things.
So I mean, you got a little,
This redundancy.
okay, so we're gonna leave it as redundant. This is where the balance of fees here go to offset some of the costs that the town incurs to.
Yes, but it was such a small amount that in 1966, they passed this municipal wetland bylaw fee. And this is what these would be. that these would be additional fees under the home rule that we can collect to offset the administration of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Secretary,
Whoa,
supplies.
read it, Mike, before you.
I'm asking, yeah.
This account is intended to provide funds to supplement both the municipal budget and the fees required by the WPA, particularly for applications like requests of determination of applicability that pay no Wetlands Protection Act fees, and costs that cannot legally be paid for through Wetlands Protection Act fees. Filing fees. Expenses that may be paid from these funds may include but not limited to administrative costs and staff salaries, creating informational brochures, materials, staff and commission training, computers and office equipment, specialized consultant review not paid for through the consultant fee account, membership dues, subscriptions, and general travel expenses.
Says may be used, doesn't mandate that all these, that it be used in all these fashions. And you've got in two different sections here where your administrative fees are coming out of two different ones. And if this is a fee, wetlands filing fee that is controlled by this board, then, you know, this board should be the one approving or disapproving the paying of salaries or the purchasing of materials or anything else. That we should have to vote on that on a regular basis. And if we feel that the money that's in that account would be better spent on something else rather than paying salaries, we just say, hey, sorry, we're not contributing to the salary base or buying the new computer or anything else because we feel that the money can be better spent someplace else, right? Is that how it's gonna work?
Very good point.
Is that how it's gonna work? I'm just asking. If you're in charge of the money,
Right.
How many hours
Last
do you
time
wanna
I
be here
checked.
on what Wednesday?
Or does
No.
it just get, well, I see Bob's point, is this just gonna get lost in the general fund?
that's what's
Is
happening.
No,
it-
it doesn't go in the general fund. It goes into a revolving
So
account.
explain all these things to us, we don't know.
Like, at
Well-
one time, there was over $75,000 in this account, okay? And we never got to participate in spending any of that money. The town manager decided that, well, I'm gonna pay Wanda 50% of her salary out of it, I'm gonna buy a computer out of it, I'm gonna buy this out of it, I'm gonna buy that out of it, and everything else. So the money, between that and the fact that we stopped collecting fees, the money went right down to here.
To the
Would
rec.
that-
Well,
So-
a lot of that got spent, some of it got spent on lawyers' fees and stuff for the Manchog Pond thing. And then
Which may or
3
may
years
not
ago,
have, which may or may not have been applicable to that particular thing, and whether or not the conservation, which I was not on at that time, whether or not they voted to approve the spending of that money on an attorney or not.
yes, we did. We did,
But that's just my problem. If this is money that is our money as a board, we're collecting it over and above all the other fees that are being charged to the people for the, ostensibly, so that the board has a little revenue that they can use for some purposes. Yet here, we're gonna be putting it into a fund where actually we have no control over, because you're not gonna be voting on whether or not you're gonna pay Wanda this week or next week,
Agreed.
or whatever bills you're gonna pay. You know, I just feel
This is,
taken advantage of.
this is what I was trying to get at with the whole trust account talk. Is that part of the town charter, or is that part of our bylaw that says how the money is used, where it goes in, where it goes out? That needs to be specified.
it was set up a long time ago, so I
Okay,
don't
but
know
that one is, but what about, like Bob's saying, what about, they used that wetlands account to pay Wanda's salary, to buy new chairs, to buy a new computer. Shouldn't that be part of our bylaw to say what that money can
It-
be used for?
It,
I think we can qualify
We-
it,
we
that's what I'm
signed-
coming to, is I think you can cross
agree
that
with
stuff
Okay,
out and
and-
say, I'm collecting money for this purpose, this person, and that purpose, and not generally
I agree with
just
you, and that's why I said from the
supplement
beginning, there should be a
municipal budget.
bylaw talk and not just a bylaw fee talk.
Wednesday night, I'll pass around the sign-off sheets that we do to pay the bills. So if you want to look at them all, you can.
No, it's not that, that's not what we're getting at. It's not about the bills, it's, if we create, so if we make an extra $15,000 a year on these fees, and it goes into our regular wetlands account,
It goes into
Can-
a special account, it's got,
okay,
It has
it's
never
a
been
super
set
ultra
up-
special 3,000 account,
Yeah.
okay, who can use it for what?
it does not go into the general fund.
I understand that, but
It
before,
goes into a revolving account.
before we had $75,000 that disappeared, so are we gonna have $15,000 that disappeared? I'm not okay with charging people for that.
It's not disappearing, we can use it for wetlands, for conservation stuff.
Yeah, we can use it,
All
but we
those
wouldn't be
things.
the only people to use it.
That's why,
The-
I agree with you, Joyce, I'd like
Jim
to have
can't
it that
touch
way,
it.
but let's cross off administrating costs, staff salaries, computers and office equipment, cross that off.
Let's
and
not
leave the
cross
rest
off
in there.
staff salaries.
Why not? I haven't getting paid yet.
You're not getting paid?
No,
Wanda's getting paid. Wanda gets paid.
she's got
But isn't that-
reimbursed up here under this other item, number one. which
There is not enough money under number
Well, that's
one.
not our problem.
Yes, it is.
What is
The,
it?
the reason they passed this was that what they realized, we are a division of the DEP,
Those Jello shots?
so it's very different than the other boards. It was intended, when they set up conservation commissions, it was intended that they would kind of pay for themselves.
That was 30 years ago. And
Yeah, and
they've
it's
since
still-
found out that that doesn't work, and that the towns themselves, as part of the town budget, is included the conservation in the town budget.
Some of
And
it.
there's a line on it. This town, at one time, not too long ago, had a reasonable budget for the Conservation Commission. And they took it upon themselves, without consulting anybody on this board, all right, that, well, we're gonna cut the conservation budget down to $25,000 a year. End of story. I know, I was on the board the last time around, and there was nobody came in here to discuss what our budget was gonna be from the town. They just arbitrarily said, well, we're cutting it in half. You used to get $50,000 a year, we're only gonna give you 25, that's it.
And they cut
End
Wanda's
of story.
hours and.
All right? So, you know, you're either part of the town or you're not part of the town. If you're not part of the town, then control your own money. All right? I am not necessarily opposed to this fee. What I'm opposed is how this fee is being used, is what I'm opposed to. All right? And that's, in a nutshell, that's where I'm coming from. Now, the fees that are gonna be collected from that schedule there, particularly now that we've taken off the swimming pool, the septic tank, the driveways, and saying we're only charging $50 a house, that fee is not gonna amount to nothing at the end of the year, because you tell me, how many houses do we have coming up
Well,
in town?
Do you want it
25?
$50, maybe
Well, I
$100?
we didn't take them off, we
We
just
didn't.
Well,
made
we-
it that if you file for a single-family home.
Yeah, you don't have to. Who's gonna put a driveway in that hasn't already got a driveway when they put their house in? So, I mean, and if you need a septic system, you're putting that in when you,
Well, new septic systems happen all the time,
well,
upgrades
yeah,
and repairs.
upgrades, I agree, but, you know, when your initial
Garage,
house.
deck, pool, or
But
shed,
again,
so.
how many, like, you tell me, you know, you can add that up quickly. That's not gonna amount to a lot of money at all. So,
Well, it's a lot more than $25 from the other, from the.
yeah, but you're not gonna get to use it. You're not gonna be able
Yes,
to.
you can.
So this is what I kinda wanted to
It's
try to
not gonna be any
understand,
money.
and I'm
It's
finally
all
trying
gonna
to
go towards
understand.
Wanda. You're not gonna have any
So
money
is
left
that-
over for the rest of it.
So is
Reading
the intent of this fee to
information,
help cover
brochures,
the
materials,
cost
staff, Commissioning,
of
training.
what it costs the town to run conservation?
Yes, that's the intent.
That's what I thought it was.
Now,
I
I
thought
had-
it was to help the aid, and to me, the cost would be to the town, Wanda. No, I shouldn't say Wanda, to the
Well-
secretary, to that position.
I,
So, to Bob's point, how do we retain control of that? Because he watched $75,000 get taken and people's hours get cut and jobs changed that weren't in this board's favor.
it
With
wasn't
the money that was
75,000
Well,
when he
just that
came
was the
on.
number, it just, and so it's $10 that got taken from the board, that got collected under the intent that it would go to help. I think that's his point.
Yeah, but it's all going to salary, there was,
So I think
nobody
all
that
he's
went to
asking, and
insurances.
I would agree, is that we all are agreeing that the charge, this might be okay. But how do we control it? How do we make sure that we decide that it goes to increase Wanda's hours, not cut, or the secretary's hours? I always think is that we would all want is to make sure we're in control of it.
Well,
That it gets used for the good of the Conservation Commission, and that's what you're telling us it's for, that it's to help cover the cost.
But it'd
How do
be,
we get that in black and white?
It's in a revolving account.
it'd be nice if we had
So I think
money.
that all you were asking was for some
Yeah.
clarity, is that
Well, it'd be nice that you had money left in that account when you wanted to, create informational brochures, material.
Right.
You wanted to do commission and training, specialized consultant review, not paid for the consultant's fees, membership dues, subscription. It'd be nice if you had money in that account to do that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But if all the
I don't
money's
think
going to.
anybody's questioning your fee schedule. I think it's more than fair. I question the intent, not the intent, the end result of the fee schedule. What are we doing with it?
Well, I think
Well,
we
what is
need
the
to
town
get
gonna do with it?
Tim
What's the availability of the
Harrison
money?
to explain how the things get paid.
I have no problem charging somebody $50 when they're already spending X amount. On the other hand, I get some feedback on this today. So we have 3 major players in the town specifically pertaining to conservation. Manchog Pond, Lake Singletary, and Ramshorn Pond. Those are the 3 major.
Stevens.
It's not as populated, but okay. I don't know if they have an association. Does Stevens Pond have an association?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll try to reach out to them. 2 of the 3 did not get back to me. I asked specifically about the bylaw because I thought we were going to be discussing bylaws. I thought everybody thought we were going to, but
But it wasn't advertised that way, so we can't.
okay, right. But we should re-advertise and talk about that. But anyway, so Manchog Pond Association feels that our bylaws are in their favor. They like our bylaws as they are stated. I don't know if there's a misunderstanding, but Manchog Pond Association, being a dual town body of water, has a neighbor on the west side or the east side or the south or the north that could compare fees. And this is what I got back for a narrative. The fee scale could be a disincentive for compliance and is significantly higher than that of Douglas, the other town of Manchog Pond. Here's a comparison. And I don't know enough about Douglas to understand how this works. Request for determination of applicability. Douglas, $25. Sutton, $300. Minor.
No.
This is coming from the clerk corresponding secretary of Phyllis Charpentier of the Manchog Pond Foundation. Minor projects, Douglas, $100. Sutton, $500 plus $1.50 per linear feet of wetland delineation. New single-family dwelling, Douglas, $300 plus $1 per square foot of wetland disturbed. Sutton is $900 plus $1.50 of linear foot of wetland delineation. $1 per square foot of permanent disturbance. How can we be so different from Douglas? Unless maybe there's a misunderstanding with Phyllis or with the Manchog Pond Foundation. But I can't imagine that one person would have responded to that. Like I said, I wanted to reach out. My job, as a private homeowner, to come before conservation is an intimidating thing. So I'm trying to make this as transparent as I can. I reached out to the 3 major players that I thought were the 3 major players, one of which didn't want to get back to me because he was afraid it would bite him in some way. Another one didn't respond at all. Manchog responded with those. I wanted to hear from both, from the Millbury ones too. I wanted to hear from Singletary and Ramshorn, but they did not get back to me.
All right, I've been working on this for a year, and like I said, I've been trying my best, and I'm about at my wit's end with this, and
You're
so
almost
if
there,
anyone
Joyce.
else wants
You're
to,
almost there.
Right, this is just discussion.
You're almost there.
It's a lot of discussion.
I think
I
this
was up
is-
till 3 o'clock this morning,
Right.
because I couldn't go to sleep.
I don't think, I'm not questioning the fees, I'm not questioning.
And I think this
I-
is pretty simple to understand.
Very simple, it's easy, it's well-written. There's just a couple of questions. What-
Okay. If we're almost there, that's encouraging to me because I'm about to throw in the towel.
Well,
but
Joyce, I think the
anyway.
last thing
I have
is-
no problem telling Bob he needs to give us $50 to put a shed in. I have no problem telling him that. What I wanna know is
All
what are
right.
we gonna use that $50 for?
We need to do some more work, so I think Tim Harrison it would be good if he could come and meet us and explain how or you want me to meet with him and see how you want it from the
Well, I
horses.
think, I don't wanna speak for everyone, but let's say this ends up being 15,000 in there. I don't wanna come in one day and have someone say, there's only 7,500 in there, and they say, 7,500 went to A, B, C, and D, and we say, we didn't know about that.
Right. Which
I
why
think-
I think it's important to have, can we write that just into our bylaw? That those funds are only for use by us on our bylaw items? Or is that part of the
No,
town
that-
charter?
That's in the state regulations, that's in the law.
The
Remember,
state law
way
says,
back,
wait a second, the state law says that the funds may be used, may
Right.
be used. Doesn't say the funds have to be
Or
used.
ca-
When
right.
somebody uses the word may, to me, that means I can pick and choose what
Last
I wanna
resort.
put the funds. Now, we're putting this in our bylaw, so I wanna pick and choose what these fees are gonna be used for. The state says they may be used for this, and I wanna pick and choose what we wanna use them for. And once we get through that, and the easy way to get through it is a vote, obviously, discussion and a vote, and on the vote, the majority rules, I mean, and so what?
well,
But once you get through that, you've already generally got through this fee schedule with a few asterisks for clarification. So the bottom line after that is, and everybody, I think, is in agreement that we're not opposed to having this fee.
No, I would like to see money coming
So
into our account that we could use though.
The bottom line is, do we all want to agree that what the fees may be used for would be number one? And number two would be how, to Billy's point, how are we're accountable for the spending of the money, and how is that accountability gonna run through us for the spending of the money, so that the
The-
next generation says, what did you do with all my money, This
All right.
money's been collecting for 50 years,
When-
and you blew it all in 2
when you're
weeks.
chairman, you get the things in front of you, sign it, and they
Yes.
pay the fees. So we do have control. And the money goes into a revolving account, not into the general fund. So we have control over that. We probably have not been too
I thought there was
diligent
no
about
money in the
looking
account,
at
so we
it.
haven't kept.
Right, and so
We've got no money in the
what
account.
I was
so
saying
I
is
don't
that
know
a
what to
simple,
do with it.
we need to have a bylaw meeting. Is that a simple our bylaw change? Or is that part of the town charter that they can just reach in and,
No, they can't.
They
did
did.
not. They didn't.
well, they paid Wanda. Wouldn't that be, Wanda's a town employee. She's not paid by the DEP.
It came out of, that's where some of that money went, but
May-
that's what it
May-
was.
It comes back to May, and that's only if you agree
See,
that
that's
it
why I would
may.
like to firm it up that going in the future. And I did know they were gonna take for one, is because that was discussed when we were out of money. But so that doesn't happen in the future. I'd rather have one to get paid out of just the way every other town employee gets paid. Whether
And
you're a
I'm
police
on both sides,
officer
right.
or whatever. So X amount of dollar, one, it gets paid the regular way, and then we have the money to use what we think is best for the town of Sutton.
So what's the vehicle for that? Is it a bylaw change, or is it above that?
Or maybe something, yeah,
I
Harrison can tell
think,
us, I
I
don't
think
know.
it's clarification
It's,
of this fee schedule that we're looking at.
Okay,
which
so
is a bylaw.
maybe at the bottom of the fee schedule
They
says
use-
these funds may only be used for.
Or you cross out
Okay.
the ones that
I
you don't
gotcha.
like and add whatever you want to add
So
to
let's
that.
figure out what that wording should be and add it
well,
to the bottom.
I don't know, I have a different perspective on that. I think if it's in there, then you can use it later on for what, there might be something unexpected that you don't know.
So leave it
Well,
open-ended unless
this-
voted for.
This is why in the, the bylaw, I think, should be open-ended, so that if something comes up. Now, this is why we were putting these fees into the rules and regulations, because if it's in the bylaw, And if we change this draft bylaw, it has to go to the finance committee and go through a whole process before May.
Right.
So the fees were in the bylaw before, so it was not easy to change them. That's why it was recommended, and I sent you all an email today from MACC, from Michelle Gerard, because I've been going back and forth with them on this too. And they recommended that they be in the fees be in the rules and regulations, so that they can be amended just by a public meeting.
Yeah, which I don't think anybody's in a.
Yeah, we're not
no-
questioning
nobody's-
that.
Nobody's,
Yeah.
so I see, you're
I think-
almost there, Joyce. The fee schedule is
So, okay, what's the next step? The next step is to find out from Tim Harrison how these fees are accessed and paid out.
Yes,
So,
that's one of the things.
one of the things, yep.
okay. So,
Step 2 is, can we change our bylaw to state how they are used?
Yeah, well, we're in the process of this fee schedule that Jen did. All right, they want to incorporate this into they want to change our bylaw to reflect this
This.
here. So we
Yeah.
are changing the bylaw. And the question is, under description of how that money is to be spent, do we want to leave it the way it is, or do we want to change it?
Change it.
Change it.
Change it.
so this was the draft that Jen did, so why don't you want to add that here under the consultant fee, and then
Well, it
You
wouldn't be
know.
consultant fee, that would be the WPA or our
it would be the last part, the
wetland bylaw
municipal,
filing fee,
Wetland
right, yeah.
bylaw.
Yeah.
the municipal wetland
Right.
bylaw fee.
Is that good enough? Will that stick in our bylaw to make sure that those funds are only used for certain things? That's,
The way it states now, we can only use it for consultants, so this would expand those uses.
But we want
We
to
wanna
change
restrict it.
uses that are written here, Joyce, is the point.
right. And we want to restrict who can use that money too.
We want to change these uses.
You don't have to restrict it, it's already restricted.
Let's start with the changes. Are we in agreement we want to change? And how do we want to change it? What do we
I
want to,
guess the
what do we want to
question
take out of that paragraph? Just pencil through it. This account is intended to provide funds and fees required by the WWSP application, like requests for.
Well, municipal budget,
Right.
think about that.
That's a
Let me
lot.
ask you a question. We get 15,000 in there. They find out tomorrow that the flashboards are broken at Stevens, and it's $5,000 to fix. Can they come in and sweep $5,000 out of this
No.
account?
No,
Are we sure they can't? Because they could come in and say that's water related, conservation related. You oversee the lakes and ponds. Can they? I want to know for a fact they can't do that, or that we have to be consulted.
I would love no more than to use that money for that.
But I want to know about
But
it.
we want to know what it's going to it, right?
I don't want to just be told we took 5,000 out of it, and that might be a bad example. And I don't think that would happen. But how do we?
okay,
What's our check and balance?
shall we adjourn this and, I'll try to get a hold of Tim Harrison, he's only here on Tuesdays, am I correct? And Fridays?
And what's Tim gonna do?
Tell
Yeah.
us
He's gonna tell
how,
us what the trust is all about,
Which I could use an
Which we
explanation.
need
That's
the
a good thing.
explanation
That's a
for
good
that.
thing, yep.
but Tim Harris is not gonna tell us what
Right.
the four of us or five of us want to use these funds for.
Could
He's
we
gonna-
ask Jim
he's
Smith
gonna
to speak on it?
he can tell us, Tim can tell us how it's been working in the past.
Yeah,
And,
but-
well, maybe we should have a meeting with Jim and Tim Harrison, I don't know.
Yeah, but
We wanna.
How it's been done in the past, I thought I heard semi-agreement here that we want to change how it was done in the past, okay, number one. Number two is I heard that we're supposed to be an autonomous group, and now we're asking Jim Smith how he wants us to handle it? You can't
No,
have
not,
both
not how
sides.
he wants us to handle it, how it's handled now.
Well, his input in the whole thing, but if we're supposed to be an autonomous group, do we really
Well, we're
want to?
not totally autonomous, but, our authority comes from the DEP and the state laws is here.
So how about if we think of it this way? So like Bob said, we're down to a paragraph. What do we want to change?
Well, let's wait
The
on that.
administrative costs and
No,
the
we-
staff
no, this-
salaries.
This one we can leave in there, this is what we're dealing with, Mike.
This one?
Yeah, this is the fee that we're
Yeah,
not,
but where does it say the breakdown of where we can use it for?
right underneath it.
Where is it?
Yeah.
This account can be used to supplement the municipal budget, the fees required, and down here it says staff, all right?
What's this, a repeater?
This here is another, this is a different fee, this is
Yeah,
the.
staff should be
Right, the
crossed.
consultant fee was.
Yeah,
This is
but-
part of the consultant fee?
No, this is a
Yeah, look
town
at that.
fee.
The staff should be crossed right
Right.
out of
That
that.
fee,
Yep.
well, that's what the money can be, the town's portion of the
All right,
money
in
can
that
be
one.
used for
So now
this.
this is the third one.
This is the fee that we're now trying to establish with this here. And
Administrative cost and
I'm
staff.
Staff salaries.
Staff salaries,
Yeah,
same
that
thing,
should be
same.
crossed out.
So,
Supplement both municipal
so I would agree,
budgets.
now that we've talked it out with Bob, at first I thought it was a good thing, but then the town can take it.
No,
Hey.
the town can't take it.
Well, how did it happen in the past? Bob said that,
Supplement both the
And they used
municipal
it for
budgets. I
They-
don't think
her
we need
salary.
to,
That
I
her-
don't think these fees should supplement the municipal budget.
How much of
Administrative
Wanda's
costs and staff salaries.
duties are for the Wetlands Protection
computer
Act?
and
I'd
office
say
equipment.
she works probably 75% on administering the Wetlands Protection Act.
It
because
does-
she-
Joyce, it doesn't say, any place that I've read, okay, that the conservation staff as employed by the town is to be paid for out of fees from the Conservation Commission. There's no place that I've read that,
Right here,
no.
they can be used
It
for that.
can be, it doesn't say, now I can show you in there, in your handbook there, where it says the secretary is paid for by the municipality,
The-
all right? So, I mean, it contradicts itself all over there, but it, nowhere does it specify that the only way the secretary gets paid is through these fees. I can show you where it says, I can quote you, not tonight, but I'll get you a quote that you gave it to me, where the staff is part of the municipal budget.
It is part of the municipal budget, but it
And
can,
this
it
just
can
says
come
that-
from both places.
There you go, can come, may come, again, I come back to may come, that's only if, that's how you gentlemen and ladies wanna spend this money. If you wanna spend it to help out Wanda so that she gets a full paycheck or whatnot, or whether or not you want the taxpayers in town to fund the costs of the employees. Now, I don't know how your retirement comes in, the medical comes in and everything else, whether we're responsible for a certain percentage of Wanda's retirement, because we've been paying her wages. I mean, how far do you wanna go down this road?
Well, I think if you have those questions, and we gotta ask those questions, then we gotta get somebody in here to answer it.
But I can contend that this is a may situation, not a shall situation. And
Well, can we try to clean up this paragraph?
The intent, I don't wanna do that now. Let's find out,
If we can.
let's find out what the questions you've been asking here. Let's find out what happens now before we end up voting on something that we don't wanna do.
I can't see collecting $50 per filing is gonna help the town in any way pay Wanda. Slim to none. On that same token, if it doesn't get used for something else over 5 years, I think that's when it would come into play. So maybe if we keep the bank account used and useful, it wouldn't happen, but I don't want it
You don't want to spend money just to spend it either.
just to spend it, right? We wanna save up and use it for whatever,
But we do have occasions as a board where we have to have Brandon do
Right.
some consulting work.
Absolutely.
Pro bono,
Yep.
and this would be an instrument to be able to pay him for work that's not covered.
Or legal fees.
specifically.
Right?
Well, even legal fees, most of the legal fees are supposed to be under by the town. I mean, we again are not devoid, we're part of the town. They're not suing the conservation without suing the town as well.
Will anyone know where the suit is now? We're being sued anyway.
But
They
there's
got a
a,
couple of them going.
yeah, but there's a point there with the Manchog attorneys, before my time with the dam.
What?
Didn't they take the lawyer's money out of this account?
Yes,
Now, let me ask you a question.
some of it.
Some of it, okay, whether it was a
Because,
dollar,
and there was Ty and Bond we paid Ty and Bond who are involved in dams and so forth to delve into this whole thing.
but to Bob's point, shouldn't that be the town fund pays the attorney fees?
Yeah.
If planning board ran into an issue, I don't know if they have an account, it doesn't matter, but where would their fees get paid for an attorney? Probably through the general fund.
Yeah,
So
through
why
the
did they
fund.
hit this fund? And I'm just asking the question, why they hit this fund for attorney?
So it was available.
Right, because it was there. And there was nothing in our law, our bylaw that said they couldn't.
And maybe it was a good use, I don't know, it probably, but it just, it seems like because it's available, it was taken from.
Okay, are we done?
Well, isn't this, it's a municipal wetland bylaw fee. So this is to help to pay, we've created bylaws that with consultants and there could be fees associated outside of the wetland acts, such as things of paying a consultant to consult us on town properties.
Right.
So the only thing left, I think, and I agree with Bob, this all makes sense. It's just, I think we wanna make sure that we have control of how this money gets spent, just so you know. I think that's all we're down to, right?
Like
I
I said,
think so. I
I
think-
have
Right,
been
Bob?
researching this for a year.
You've
And
done
I
it-
sent all stuff out to you people, and I don't think you read your emails all the time and so forth, and I am
Joyce,
frazzled.
I think most of us, I don't wanna speak for all of us, I think this is pretty much done. I think if we had,
Agreed.
if we.
I don't think it's anything that you're not doing, we're
No.
just having discussion on the open-endedness of the last sentence. It's the
I
last
just-
paragraph.
Just let's make sure that.
Right, that's what this meeting was for,
And
is
you're
just
right,
this.
when I was chair and you were chair and Dan was chair, we sign off $30 for this, $45 for that. I just don't want 15,000 in there and a big chunk of money comes out and not know what it's for. At least be able to have the discussion and say, yes, we agree.
Okay, should we invite Tim?
So that would
and-
be Tim, and I don't know if Jim Smith or does the town legal counsel answer that question? I don't know. But with that being said, do we need a motion to have a bylaw meeting? Because that was what this meeting was
No,
supposed to
no,
be
no,
too, and it was
no.
left off the,
We will have a bylaw meeting, but I wanted to do this first, and this bylaw was gonna be just for the fees, and that was gonna be easy. And then we'll have another one for other bylaws, but let's do this one thing first
get it done?
and get it done, cause it's been a year.
Okay, so what do we have to ask Tim and ask Jim and whoever else?
Yep, and then maybe we'll have another meeting like this. Without, cause it's almost impossible to do these things after a
Oh,
meeting.
no, agreed. Yeah, that's the whole point of coming. So there's one
Mhm.
question to answer. Who's in control of trust, account number 3, call it? That's it, right? That-
Okay.
I think
And
that's.
can we
the only-
modify it with our bylaw? That
And
was,
can we-
Who's in, what the
And
money can
Be
be.
used
Right.
for.
right,
what it
so
can be
control and
spent on.
use, who's in control and use?
And I think that the use has to be, or should be spelled out.
I think so too, and I think it should all be voted on.
So it sounds like to me, it should be used for the costs that are incurred by the bylaws, whether it be extra hours for Wanda, whether it be consultant who needs to weigh in on different things.
I'm okay with
'Cause
everything.
that's the way
as long
it
as
says
we're
it,
asked as a
so
board. If somebody comes
please-
in and says we need $5,000 for Wanda, as long as we're asked and we vote on it. But if it's out of the blue and she hasn't worked any extra hours other than her agreement with the town, I don't know if that's appropriate.
Well, that's why I think we also want to have the trust account answer too, because I don't believe this could, but there's a lot of money in there. Let's make sure that,
It stays in there, or it,
It does stay in there.
The thing with what you're saying is there's not gonna be generated enough money with this fee schedule
right,
so that you're gonna be able to pay 1 to 5 hours a week,
Right.
period. It's gonna be, so every penny is gonna be generated, is gonna be gone to salary if you agree that this money can be or will be used to pay Wanda's salary.
right,
It's not like you're generating thousands of dollars
right.
a month out of this, and you say, all right, so Wanda gets $200 out of that.
Mhm.
But if you're generating $100, it would be a good month,
Mhm.
and her salary is obviously much more than $100, so that's
Not
gone.
much.
That's gone. So, I mean, it'd be nice to have that money so that it could be, because it's relatively small,
Mhm.
that it could be used for some of the other benefits
Of a conservation commission.
of the conservation, for brochures, for training, for things of
Maps,
that
trail
nature.
maps, trail
Whatever.
clearing, trail maintenance.
Any of that type of stuff, all right? Which, the money won't be available
Right. If it's used for salary.
if it's used for municipal purposes and salaries, because there's
It'll be
not
gone.
enough of it being generated.
No, I believe our next meeting is next Wednesday,
Yes.
and I don't think the agenda is very long. Or I may be wrong, but I think it's kind of quiet. And I also like the idea we did this on another night. Do we want to put it out there that we have can discuss it? Say we have a short meeting and want to discuss more?
Well, we'll have to put this on the agenda, we can put this on the agenda for next week, and that was the motion, the only motion we will make tonight is to discuss it
If we're
next
running late, we
week.
could always continue it.
Bill,
right?
yes.
Yeah, right.
All right,
Yeah, we'll put it on every meeting until it's done.
so do you want me to get a hold of Tim and see if he can come and speak to us individually?
I would like to ask him questions.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
And I don't know, does that have to be a
Why
meeting
would it be
too?
individually?
Well, not individually,
as a
I mean,
group.
as
Just answer
the, as
few-
the
I wouldn't
board,
wanna make somebody
as
come
the
unless he wants
Conservation
to.
Commission.
Just whatever.
I mean, and I'm happy to you try to do it during his hours too, if that's easier for him. I mean, we all work, but
I think we'd have to televise it though, wouldn't we?
I don't know. I guess so, probably, right?
Open meeting law. Yeah,
Could we be as simple as Joyce could just talk to him to find out the clarity of who's in control?
Could it be an email, so then it's...
How about you?
oh yeah, maybe.
Well, I think if
we'll
more
email.
than a few people, then it has to be public.
Well, if Joyce emailed the questions, or one of us emailed the questions, we got the answers in black and white, we could read it into the town
All
of
right,
Sutton.
Just trying to keep it simple.
well,
Because every time you ask somebody to come, it makes it more
Yeah,
complicated.
and I don't...
You
I
can-
think that's all they were
you
asking.
can have, well, this is what we had, back in 2015, there was supposed to be a bylaw subcommittee, so we didn't have to have it on TV and everything. And that's why we had 2 people on the subcommittee, and if you ever had a meeting or ever came to a conclusion, I don't know, because nothing ever came of
It was
it.
started with Dan and I, and...
Yeah, and nothing ever came of
Crown
it.
Royal, right?
was
And
it
so that's
no
why,
Crown Royal?
that's
Oh,
why the
Crown
rules
Royal.
and regulations and the fees never got into the rules and regulations in the first place. So, do you wanna go to Tim? Do 2 people wanna be a subcommittee to go to him and find the answers to these questions?
In a lot of respects, I like what Billy's saying, because if you asked him in writing to respond in writing of how that trust fund is named and operated and everything else, then you got something in writing versus,
He doesn't know that.
well,
Well, we can, if he
if
says,
he says he
we can go
doesn't
to
know
town
it,
council with the question.
Well, I think, that is another issue.
So, well, then this
This-
account, let's get
This
the answer to
account.
that
Let's
account.
get to this first.
So put
Can
that
we
one in writing.
please, please, please figure this out first?
Okay, so then let's put in,
I don't know as if Tim is involved with this account.
For this, yes, that's what he pays. That's what he's been paying money out
I
of.
understand, but as far as, what are we asking, we're gonna ask Tim how the account is administered? Or are we gonna ask Tim how the money is spent? Or we are the ones, I
Okay,
think, that
let me
can
explain to
determine how
you.
the money's gonna be spent.
Let me explain to you how it's been working now. There's a WPA account, it's a revolving account. And what they've been doing is the money that comes from the state, they keep track of in that revolving account. And this municipal account that had all the money in it that then went into the red, they are keeping track of that under the same account, but as separate books. So all the money goes in there, but they keep track of the 2 separately. This should be in its own account, totally separate from the state money.
Yep,
So this is what they've done in the past. They've,
but Tim
Had-
told you that that was too laborious for him to do, so that's why it's gone in.
no, they, Wanda has a running total of both of these accounts all the time. So, that's the way they've been working it.
Then who makes the decisions of that column and where it gets spent?
that's what I,
I know.
Wanda submits the bills to Tim. So I don't know if he decides it comes out of here or here. I really don't know.
So Wanda knows whenever
Wanda
anybody
submits
accesses this, it has to be a bill submitted by Wanda.
But the filing fee, there's nothing in the account, so there can't be anything being taken out of it.
There is now,
Filing fee
I
account?
believe.
We haven't collected filing fees in 3 years.
I know,
And
and
it
it
was
went
in-
in the red, but,
It was in the red
2 years ago.
2 years ago, so I don't know how the money's been going in there.
I don't know, but
I mean,
anyway,
that's a
all
good
right.
question, if there's money in the filing fee account, who's putting it in there, how's it getting in there? I'd like to have that.
I think
Well,
we,
wasn't $25 from that state fee go in that account?
no,
That's
No.
where the-
That's
I think
another
there's a-
account?
That's a
Yes.
WA
Then what
account.
money's it going in there?
I think there's a baseline from the town,
So we already,
not much.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
No?
right, this never got done and then we're not collecting
I
the
thought,
fee.
that- I had looked at it a couple months ago.
You
when we
know
first
what
started
money's
talking
going in
about
there?
it.
The $25 bylaw fee.
That's what I just asked.
So that's not a filing account, that's not
The
the account
bylaw
that
fee,
we're
the
talking.
first one, I mean,
That's the one they're entitled to do whatever the Christ they want with it. The half the filing fee, they're entitled to do anything they want with it, pay salaries, do anything they want with it, that's
So I think on
entitled.
the one we're discussing tonight, right?
It's the filing fee that Joyce wants to introduce.
This account, I guess the question I wanna know is, who signs off and gives the approval to Tim to take money out of it?
We do, when we sign those.
Okay, so I wanna see that in black and white, that if there's $10,000 in there, and someone needs $5,000, it comes in front of the 5 people or plus on this board eventually, and that the board says, do we all agree to spend $5,000 on this, and then the chair signs off. So then no one else can take any money out of that account,
That's the filing account only,
the filing account only.
which we haven't got, we're trying to establish.
But if we establish it,
Yeah, okay,
based off this fee that I think we're pretty much set on, right, or pretty close, that we decide where it goes, so no one can say, well, there was 15,000 in there, we got into a pinch, we needed $5,000, and we took $5,000 out.
Mhm.
And if they can answer that in black and white, that solves a lot of my issues.
I agree with you.
All right, now how do we go about doing this?
I told you how you go about it. You've got your filing bylaw that you drafted. You cross off
No,
things.
no, that's not what I'm saying. You wanna just email Tim and ask him questions? And you have to be careful not, to make conclusions. You can, like I sent out information,
He can
factual
speak, he
information.
can give facts.
He can give
Or
facts.
we can ask questions
You
to
can
get the
ask-
facts,
you
no
get
opinions.
facts.
Well, I thought it's just one-on-one and then he reports back to us, right? As long as we're not all weighing in and having, so he would reach out to Tim as an individual and ask questions.
Well, I think as a board, I think it would be better if he came in front of us in a meeting.
But we wouldn't have to
like
worry
this.
about a quorum on that because it's not a voting matter, right?
Yes, you do. We
You do?
can't, 3 people can't be together, no.
Right, that's what I was asking.
That's why you have to have the public.
I thought that was only for a voting
We're
matter.
gonna ask Tim how he pays money out of the filing account, which we don't have.
If it's set,
No, what she's saying, we have the account. So this newly created account's gonna go here with that other $25 or whatever that money
No,
is.
it's a separate account altogether. It's not part of that $25.
it's gonna be a brand new account, right?
I think at the end of this,
It's not gonna be a brand
be a
new,
good thing.
See, this
It's gonna be a separate account.
it's gonna be a
for us.
separate account, yes.
All right, brand new, that's what he's talking about, a separate account than
Separate account.
the WPA or the.
Well, can I ask a question? Are we in agreement if this separate account is set up based off these proposed fees, that we as a board determine how these collected fees are spent? Are we in agreement on that? That we wanna decide how they're spent?
Yeah. I'd like to see the bylaw changed so that it doesn't infer.
So at
that
every
the Money
meeting,
will be used
Right.
for administrative
It'd
fees.
take 2 seconds to vote on 3 things.
so every meeting, we go through the fees from the 2 weeks before?
Yeah, it's $50 for this, $80 for this, and then all of a sudden
Sign
5,000
off
for
on
this, whoa, who asked for that?
Right.
Let's discuss it. you know?
Anything over $500 we should be voting on, not just the chair sign off on.
Well, you
All
could,
right,
it could
can
take-
we adjourn? I'm done.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We gotta make a motion
I'll
to,
second it.
No, wait a minute.
Hold on. Make a motion to continue the discussion of the, what are we calling this?
bylaw filing fee,
bylaw-
municipal bylaw filing
Municipal
fees.
bylaw filing fee to our next meeting, which is Wednesday, February
Six.
for six.
Six. Yeah, 6.
Wednesday, February 6th at the first available time.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Time to go to the St.